Hi, I'm Tom Field, Senior Vice President of Editorial with Information Security Media Group. Welcome to today's session, entitled An Inside Look at How Cyber Criminals Target Financial Services and Banking Organizations. Your presenter today is Tom Findling. He's Vice President, Sales Engineering and Customer Success with IntSights. Now, before I turn this over to Tom, let me give you just a bit of background on today's session. Over the past year, financial services organizations have seen an 87% increase in credential leakage, 149% increase in stolen credit cards, 151% increase in cyber attack indications, and a 49% increase in fake social media accounts. In addition, state-sponsored APT groups with little to no financial motivation have continued to target these organizations as a way to wage cyber warfare and cyber terrorism. As threat actors and cyber tactics have evolved, so too must your cybersecurity strategy. It's critical that you understand the latest tools, tactics, and procedures that cyber criminals use to target your organization and your customers, as well as what activity you should monitor in order to anticipate attacks. In this webinar, we'll share key findings from IntSights Financial Services and Banking Threat Landscape Report, common attack indications you can uncover on the dark web, how to reduce fraud and anticipate cyber attacks against your organization, and finally, how an IntSights customer uses dark web threat intelligence to protect themselves and their customers. I want to take just a moment to tell you a bit about Information Security Media Group. We currently publish more than 24 international media sites. We have Bank Info Security and CU Info Security for financial services, Gov Info Security for the public sector, and Healthcare Info Security for the medical community. We also publish Info Risk Today about information risk management, Data Breach Today about breach prevention and response, and Careers Info Security. Each of these sites is dedicated to providing education and news regarding information security, but specifically tailored to their individual sectors. With over 750,000 members registered to our sites, we've created a true information source that tackles the key issues of interest to our unique audience. Just a few notes of housekeeping, please. If you have any questions for Tom during the course of this session, please submit them via the chat window that you see on your screen now. If any of you should experience any technical issues while viewing today's webinar, please dial the number on your screen. We do have technical support staff standing by to help. Also, I need to emphasize, the content being presented in today's webinar is copyrighted material, and it's meant for today's session and individual study purposes only. If you or your organization would like to use any of the information presented in today's session, or if you're looking for customized training materials, please contact us. I'll take just a moment here to introduce our sponsor, IntSights. IntSights is redefining cybersecurity with the industry's first and only enterprise threat management platform that transforms tailored threat intelligence into automated security operations. The IntSights for Financial Services is built specifically for banking and financial institutions, enabling you to leverage data mining algorithms and unique cyber reconnaissance capabilities to anticipate direct threats, identify and block fraud attempts, and protect your customers from social engineering schemes. IntSights has offices in Amsterdam, Boston, Japan, New York, Dallas, and Tel Aviv. To learn more, please visit www.intsights.com. And finally, it's my pleasure to turn this over to Tom Findling. He works daily with financial services customers to optimize their threat intelligence programs and defend against the latest threats. He's an out-of-the-box thinker, and from an early age, he's had a passion for finding security vulnerabilities and exploring them. Tom served as a senior analyst in an elite intelligence unit in the Israeli Defense Forces, where he was part of a team of expert analysts developing mission-critical intelligence solutions in a data-intensive environment. He specializes in many areas of cybersecurity and cloud analytics, skills that he puts to use daily in the technological arms race against cyber criminals. With that, let me turn this over now to Tom Findlay. Tom, all yours.
Thank you, Tom, for the warm introduction. I'm going to talk today about several of the topics that you mentioned before. And as mentioned, the agenda for today, we will start by covering some of the key findings from our financial landscape report that we published just a couple of days ago. And I highly recommend everybody on the call just to take a quick peek and get up to date with all the most recent trends and findings that we were able to put together in that report. Then we will go and cover a little bit how fraud can be reduced and how to anticipate cyber attacks within financial services organizations. And at the end, I will cover a little bit about our offering for FSI organization and what IntSights for FSI is all about. So just a short recap. Like I said, we put a very interesting report out there. I highly encourage everybody just to go ahead and take a look at it. It's available from the link presented on the screen. Very interesting findings, and I hope you will enjoy the reading. Definitely worth the read. And we will put more and more reports like that on specific cadence and make sure that we keep you guys up to date with the most recent trends and threat actors that exist out there. There are some key findings that we were able to find just by putting this report together. And I just want to get a little more into the weeds and let you guys understand what are the statistics and what are the trends that we have seen putting this report together and during our continuous monitoring of all the bait places around the internet. So the first thing that we anticipated is that 100%, 151% increase in mentions of FSI organizations, assets in the dark places and in the bad places. What it means is like IntSights is always go ahead and monitor chatter on the clear, deep, and dark web, specifically in places which are usually being used for criminal acts and for fraudulent activities. And we always have kind of a bar that we put together just to figure out how much chatter is related for a specific industry by putting some keywords and well-known brand names from all over the world. And what we were able to see using our tracking capabilities is there is definitely a growth with the bandwidth of chatter regarding financial organizations, which usually indicates that there is a lot more going on related to these organizations, which definitely worth your attention. And using the IntSights platform, one of the things that we were able to let you do is just to go ahead and get visibility into all that chatter, specifically the threat and risk that related to your organization. And also, we've seen growth with targeted phishing attacks. We all the time monitor specific phishing lists and phishing campaigns. And one of the things that we anticipated as well is a 91% growth related to targeted phishing attacks on financial organizations. So this attack vector has been with us for a while, but it's definitely gaining more and more momentum. And one of the reasons for that I will just explore later in this presentation. Also, I've seen growth in stolen credit card information, 149% there as well. That just comes by the fact that a lot of very sophisticated hackers out there just go ahead and being able to exploit like websites and online shops and put their hands on stolen credit cards. And there is a whole industry about more that more sophisticated hackers just go and sell to less sophisticated hackers credit cards, and then the less sophisticated hackers just go and make some purchases, even could be on local stores in the real world and can be in the cyberspace, and then just go ahead and using some small amounts on different types of credit cards to be able to get the stolen goods and being able to provide some profits for themselves. This area is also gaining momentum because usually it's kind of no victims on both ends. So there is not a big risk for the hacker here just to do those like small transactions. Usually it will be too hard just to go ahead and go after these individuals. They're using like very low amounts for their transactions, and they use some protecting mechanisms that make it not efficient just to go ahead and catch them. And on the other end, the consumers, which is each and every one of us who owns credit cards. For us, usually when there is a fraudulent activity on the card, it's being fully refunded to us by the bank or the financial organization. So there is no specific impact on the end user. And usually the burden falls with the financial institution that already has budget to that. So that's something that is keep growing. And I think that we will see over the next couple of years more and more carding tutorials and more black markets to sell credit cards, and some more new techniques of hackers that to take advantage of this attack vector. We also have seen 135% increase in selling online bank information and banking records on black markets. As well, when online banking is getting more and more popular, more and more hackers just prefer just to go and provide and do some fraudulent activities on the bank's website behind a proxy or a VPN. That definitely helps them to keep their anonymity. Rather than, if you look at the old days, what used to happen is, somebody walking to a bank and try to rob a bank. So doing that from the cyberspace definitely is more convenient, and the more and more power that you can get from online banking these days definitely shows in the hacking community as well. A 40% increase in employee credentials. We see that a lot for FSI as well. As long as more and more FSI organizations starting to use two-factor authentication for login and for employee credentials. There's still a large amount of organizations out there that still using regular username and passwords, and there is like specific targeted phishing attacks to gain these credentials, phishing websites, as well as some leaks and some other ways attackers use these days to gain access to these credentials, to be able to access remotely the bank's assets. And again, I know that financial organizations put a lot of efforts towards being able to protect their kingdom, but with all the SaaS platforms that are being used today and all the services that exist outside of the corporate network, those compromised credentials can become very handy for hackers and cyber criminals. And then the last thing is social media. More and more people are using social media, more and more people using social media to communicate with their banks. And this is, again, another very interesting trend that we've noticed, that more and more scams are coming from social media. Just go ahead and lead you into phishing website, download malicious mobile applications, and also just to steal your PII and identity information. All of these specific things are being using social media today to be able to have a platform to get into the bank users, and that's another factor that I highly recommend to look after. So the key trends that we were able to uncover from the report that we put out there. The first one, we see a big growth with the state-sponsored APT groups. And I think that, a lot of countries all around the world realize the power of cybersecurity and how probably the next war in the world is going to be over the cyberspace, and more mission-critical services related to the government, or related to a proper functioning of an economy are being on the target these days. Today, if you shut down a bank or shut down a financial organization, the impact might be even bigger from a financial perspective, from a terrorist attack or just a war. So more and more countries are go and try to get these capabilities to be able to gain access and control of other countries' economy. And if we look at what happens over the last couple of years, when a lot of the hackers and a lot of the hacking activity, which still is going on today as well, but was driven mainly by hackers. They wanted to see financial gains out of their hacking activity. We see a lot more activity coming from nation state hackers, And dealing with these nation-state hackers is a much more sophisticated defense mechanism that you need to put in place, because first, they're very well funded. So they don't just take existing tools, modify them a little bit, and use them. They actually develop their own tools. Their tools are usually a lot more sophisticated. And like I said before, they're really, really picky about their targets. And financial organizations are key and prime targets for them. So that's why you will see a lot more in that space. By the way, part of the reports that we put out there, we did actually an overview about some of the groups that we have noticed being very active from different regions of the world, from a nation-state perspective, that are going after financial organizations. So if you want to get a little bit more information about the specific groups or threat actors that are very active in that space and domain, including the tools and the TTPs that they use for their operations, I highly recommend just to go and read our report and get a little bit more information about that as well. The second trend that we were able to uncover is the increase of attacks that try to actually go and blackmail financial organizations. So if you guys remember, there were a couple of ransomware, very famous ransomware attacks happened over the last couple of years, but ransomware these days is old news. With all the privacy laws that exist out there today, if you talk about GDPR, PCI, and others, one of the trends that you will see is that hackers that are able to put their hands on financial information and customer information, as well as hack into some banking organization, instead of just go and use ransom to get some money into their pockets, they would just go ahead and try to blackmail the bank. So the bank today, it's all about reputation, and also there is a big impact, like I said, because of all the privacy laws and regulations that exist out there. So if you have to report a breach to the government, or if you have to deal with a specific leakage, that will definitely put you in trouble and will carry fines from the government, as well as a big problem with the organization reputation. So a lot of hackers, instead of just go and use ransom these days, they will just go and try to blackmail you in order to try to get as much money as they can. And a lot of banks today will try to make sure that they keep it quiet, so they will not get any impact on their brands. Then the third trend that we were able to uncover is the mobile banking and social media as a new attack vector. Mobile banking is definitely gaining momentum these days, and more people are using their mobile phone to access their bank accounts, do money transfers, just get financial information related to their bank accounts. That became a very primary attack vector for hackers out there, just because of the fact that this attack vector targets directly the end user of the bank. Usually the end users do not have all these fancy controllers and security devices to protect them, especially not on their phones these days, which makes it a much better target for hackers to be able to try to go and steal financial information and get control over credentials that might help them to use against fraudulent activities that they would like to perform. So being able to use this attack vector is something which is gaining momentum, and they use that in a way that they take original binaries of existing apps, of existing banks, or try to create some fake mobile apps, bundle malware in them, and then republish them in the official app stores, in third-party app stores. And what they hope for is that somebody will get confused, and instead of the official app, downloads their app, especially if you were able to root your phone or just try to use a third-party app store to download information to your phone. And then with the original binaries of the app originally was provided by the financial institution organization, it will be an additional piece of malware added to it. And it can be all the way from a keylogger that will track the credentials to a proxy that will allow you to get control over the phone and use the phone and the authentication of the user to perform some fraudulent activities, all the way just to cryptocurrency miners that bundle into online banking apps today just to make those hackers pockets full and use the CPU that we have on our cell devices to mine Bitcoin. The other thing, as I mentioned before, is social media. Since a lot more consumers now these days are using social media and using social media to communicate with their banks, one of the things that is definitely noticed by hackers is that it's much easier to go and target them through these platforms. And it can be all the way from being able to access the phishing website, promote their fake apps that we have just touched on, and also just create some mechanisms that will allow them to steal credentials and also steal identity information in PII. So all of this information is very sensitive for sure. And using these platforms to gain the data and attacking the end user, this is some of the new capabilities and attack vectors that the hackers get these days because of the financial organization are getting more and more sophisticated. And then last thing that we have here is the movement that we've noticed from all dark web forums and communities that were very popular over the last few years to exchange credit cards, bank accounts, try to recruit insiders, etc. Hackers, especially after what happens over the last couple of years by the Feds being able to put their hands on the operators of these forums and put them behind bars. One of the things that definitely is gaining momentum is instead of just using these communities, hackers move towards peer-to-peer mechanisms to be able to communicate with each other. So it can be all the way from old school ICQ if you're dealing with hackers in the Russian markets to some closed WhatsApp groups, Telegrams group, Jabber. So you will actually be able to prove yourselves, be very well known with the community, or just prove that you are not a Fed in order to be able to get access to these secret channels, and also being able to develop collection mechanisms for these new sources. It's something which is new for threat hunters these days. Also, it's much easier to change. So those channels are moving around very frequently, which makes it much harder for law enforcement to go after them. And on top of that, it's very hard to go ahead and shut them down. So, because nobody is going to shut down WhatsApp or Telegram or ICQ anytime soon. So being able to, get into this new attack vectors and get in touch with hackers these days is getting more complex, does require some more definitely human capabilities, and the ability to collect the data and analyze that is quite different than what we got used to over the last couple of years. Then also just as an additional trend that we were able to uncover is the phishing as a service. As I mentioned before, we have seen a large growth with phishing attacks targeting specifically bank employees as well as banks, customers, and financial organizations in general. I think the reason for that, based on what we're able to see over the last couple of months, is the availability of phishing kits. So if in the past you had to build your own malware, get your own web hosting, do all the fancy work in order to put together a good phishing website or launch a good phishing campaign, now the entry barrier for a phishing attack, it's almost nothing. It's a fraction of a Bitcoin. You can go on the dark web, you can get yourself a phishing kit, and those phishing kits are way more sophisticated than attacks that we have seen before when people used to build their own tools and capabilities. They're changing domains and IPs and web hosting providers rapidly, which makes it very hard to catch them. And on top of that, one of the things that we have noticed by analyzing some of these phishing kits it's in the vast majority of them, the person who sells the phishing kit will actually put a backdoor there. So once he sells it to a specific individual that would like to launch a phishing campaign, what would happen is that specific individual, all the credentials, all the information that you will be able to get back to the phishing platform will also be delivered to the developer, so the developer will be able to get all of the information as well and sell it and make a profit out of it as well, which makes it extremely easy to launch phishing attacks these days, and also the risks which are associated with them by having those like top-notch hackers who put those tools together and get all the information from all the attacks. It makes it much harder to stop, and the exposure and the use of the information which is being stolen is also surging as well. So after covering some of the trends that we're able to uncover in the report, I would like just to go ahead and provide you some recommendations that we are able just to put together in order to help you to avoid and mitigate the risks that are associated with these specific attacks. And then I just want to go ahead and start by covering what is kind of the status quo with a lot of financial organizations today. So first, when talking about protecting the actual organizations, most of the financials today will have some sort of a next-gen firewall, a mail spam filter, obviously a SIEM, endpoint protection. A lot of financial organizations will invest in employee training as well, and will have a lot of other tools and capabilities to protect their internal network. And definitely that specific area of protecting your internal network and looking at every and each packet that goes through your firewall and goes through your network, this is something that we've seen financial organizations are being very good at, and being able to track that and find attacks. Then the second thing is fraud and being able to reduce fraud. Fraud teams today definitely getting into the cyberspace landscape, since a lot of the fraud activities are coming from the cyberspace as well. There is a little bit of manual threat hacking. There is a lot of transaction monitoring going on, try to reduce fraudulent activities. But definitely, based on the trends that we have seen and the easy entrance, or the easy barrier, there is almost no barrier to get into that specific, fraudulent activities and take advantage of being able to get money out of stolen credit cards and bank accounts. We will definitely see fraud going up over the next couple of years. And there needs to be done a lot more to be able to reduce the risk which is associated with fraud. And also, there is some good ways to be able to reduce the amount of losses which are associated with a specific fraud activities. But today, a lot of organizations kind of stuck just getting into the cyber world, try to understand it. There is a lot of manual work and basic stuff that is being done, but definitely not enough. And the last area that I believe, and we believe that this is the biggest blind spot today, is what we call protect your customers. So like I said before, it's very trendy these days among hackers just to go after your end users. Because it's much harder to get into your network and get this information from there. And also e-commerce and online stores are putting more barriers and more security mechanisms to protect their data. Hackers realize that the easiest pain point is the clients. And then a lot of organizations protect very well their internal network, but do very little protecting their clients. So, some of the recommendations that we have here. First, use threat intelligence to take a proactive approach. So, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of organizations put a lot of efforts monitoring every packet that goes through their network. Even though it's great, you're missing the other half of the puzzle here, or the flip side of the coin. Being able to understand just what's going on in your internal network is important, but using threat intelligence, you can actually go ahead and uncover and understand what's going on the other side of the firewall and get the visibility around threats and risks that are going out there that exist targeting your organization, and you might not have any visibility to. So being able to go ahead and put your hands on this specific intelligence first obviously will help you to reduce attacks on your specific institute, as well as reduce fraud and protect your clients, but also will help you to do a much better business decisions on where do you put your money that you invest with your security and which one of the attack vectors targeting you the most. The second thing is we've seen that a lot of financial organizations are very focused on compliance. It's definitely something which is necessary just by regulations and fines that are associated with not complying with these compliance standards. But we have noticed that a lot of the organizations are focusing too much on compliance and too little on risk, which means if you look at compliance standards today, they were put in place to protect us against yesterday's attacks. Being able to allocate more time towards evaluating your current risk has its goals today, and where you see most of your losses or most of the risk which is associated of protecting your data, definitely this is something that would be very recommended, on top of obviously being able to be comply with compliance standards today based in your geography. Also leveraging more and more automation. When we look at threat intelligence today and security in general, we just get more and more data. Mountains and piles of data, which are, some of it can be very useful, but just because there is so much noise, it's very, very hard just to go ahead and consume it and pay attention to the right bits and pieces. So there are two things here. First one, to use more AI and more of machine learning to be able to reduce the noise and get as much of the noise down by using sophisticated algorithms to replace especially the basic human activities, and also take advantage of automation that will help you to reduce the manual labor which is associated with go across all these noise, and then pick up and be able to bubble up all the relevant information when you need your security professionals to focus on, rather than spend their time on just try to get through the noise, which, like I said before, if you just spend too much time on the noise, you might end up not having enough time to deal with the actual threats and risks that you have to deal with. Then number 4 is focus on specific threats and risks that are targeting your organization. And this is kind of what goes back to being able to filter down the noise. If I'm looking at threat intelligence, there are like hundreds of feeds or thousands of feeds that you can subscribe for, and all of them will just push more and more and more noise towards you. Being able to find out what are the specific threats and risks that are targeting your organization is the key thing to understand where you need to put your money, where you need to put your efforts, and being able to make much smarter decisions and protect your business in the best way. And then the last thing is training, especially your end users, your internal employees. We have seen that the more training you put together, the better results you get. And it's definitely one of the things that we've seen FSI organizations perform more over the last couple of years, but it's definitely not enough, and that can help us to reduce large amount of the attacks and mitigate them, other than, on top of using all the other tools and mechanisms that are being used to prevent them as well. So here I kind of want to focus on our offering and how IntSights is looking at the financial landscape from a threat intelligence perspective. It's very important for us that we will put the right efforts and the right capabilities on that specific sector. And with that, we were able to create a dedicated internal team that will focus on financial organizations and financial services because there is a specific types of threats and risks that needs to be handled differently, and there are specific sources and specific TTPs that requires attention compared to different industries and verticals. So when we look at threat intelligence for financial services, like I said before, we usually break it down to three main areas that we believe financial organizations should focus. The first one is obviously protect your own organization. And, threat intelligence will be able to help you, and, specific or targeted or tailored threat intelligence will be able to find out specific malware that was written to target your financial organization. We will be able to help you to find out specific DDoS attacks that you might have towards your organization. Look at brand security. A lot of, like I said before, all of those like social media scams that might target your bank employees, as well as executive protection. A lot of the attacks that we have seen lately are specific attacks that are being launched for specific executives in specific organizations, which makes them very hard to stop and know about them ahead of time. And being able to brief the individual will definitely help you to help them to protect your organization and their privacy and identity as well, and prevent them from being a target for hackers. Then insider threats, also very common use case out there when we've seen that there were a lot of bank employees that are not usually, some of them are not very happy, that offer to run a specific executable or just open a specific port or get access to their desktop for a fraction of a Bitcoin or for a specific amount of money, as well as there are people out there that try to recruit people who work in these financial organizations to be able to run for them specific malware or do something for them within their financial institute. The dark web became a great place for that activity to happen and facilitates a lot of these activities, as well as leaked employee credentials, leaked confidential documents, and phishing attacks that are targeting your employees directly. Now it's great to know about all this intelligence, specifically that targets your organization, but you also want to be able to operationalize that and take a specific act on each and every threat that you come across. And the IntSights platform will be able to help you with that as well, by being able to integrate your security devices. So if you find a phishing domain, being able to block anything, your mail gateway or the mail proxy right off the bat will help you a lot. Being able to block a specific domain URL or IP in your firewall, and all that in an automated fashion or semi-automated fashion can go a long way protecting your environment and making sure that you will do that with the minimal amount of labor in the most efficient way. We also offer takedown services. So when you find a phishing website or a phishing domain or a scam in social media, instead of just use your traditional ways of going to your legal department to use an external firm to take it down, something which takes a lot of time and might, and it could be that these expertise do not exist in your organization. Being able to use our one-click remediation definitely helps to go a long way with that. Then the second area that I would like to cover is this reduce fraud. Every financial organization, especially the ones who use or the ones that are doing retail banking, will have associate amount of fraud activities related to their yearly budget and the budget that they allocate for fraud activities. Being able to reduce the amount of fraud that the bank is experiencing definitely can show a very quick ROI, and being able to stay on top of stolen credit cards that are being traded in those black markets and WhatsApp, Jabber, Telegram groups, and cancel them before any fraudulent activity happens on them definitely can go a long way and help. Compromise bank accounts and details, being able to get these, cancel them before any fraudulent activity happens on them can help you as well. And also monitoring your SWIFT. there were plenty of Swift attacks lately. So being able to monitor your Swift number and being able to monitor any specific chatter related to Swift attacks, that's something that can go a long way by reducing the fraud for your organization. And also from an automatic remediation perspective, being able to integrate to the fraud system. So once a new credit card pops up, immediately cancel it, or once a new bank accounts pop up, being able to suspend it or take any other action is very important. Those things are very timely, so being able to integrate to your fraud system will go a long way to reduce manual labor, and also making sure that you will be able to act on the findings before it's too late. And then the last thing that I mentioned before, protect your customers. This is the biggest blind side of a lot of organizations today, but being able to find phishing attacks that are targeting your customers and mitigate them, being able to find all those like malicious mobile apps and take them down, as well as scams coming from social media and customer online banking accounts, being able to find all these ahead of time and protect your customers can go a long way. We have an integration with Google Safe Browsing. When we found a phishing website that targets your clients, for example, we will be able to initiate a takedown and take it down with the registrar. But by this time, we will do that. We will be able just to go and contribute that information to Google Safe Browsing and then block that specific threats or risk, as well as using our takedown services, I mentioned before, to take down not only domains, but also mobile apps and social media scams. I just wanted to mention we have a growing footprint within the financial landscape. We already have 35 customers globally that are using our services, and we're very close with the community. We work very close with IntSights and the Cyber Threat Alliance, specifically threats and risks that are related to FSI organizations, and help you to protect yourself against these threats and risks. And one last thing about the IntSights platform. We believe that provide an holistic approach for threat intelligence and being able to consume all the threat intelligence needs from one portal is the key to be able to scale and run a much more efficient program within your organization. So if you look at the IntSights platform, we usually break it down to three main areas. Like I mentioned before, the tailored intelligence piece, which is the bottom piece that you can see over here, that will uncover specific threats and risks that are related to your organization in multiple different areas, from the clear, deep, and dark web, specific malware attacks, specific attacks on executives, phishing. Being able to know what is targeting you specifically is very, very valuable. Then IOC management is usually referred as the TIP platform, which allows you to consume information from multiple different sources and threat feeds, open source and paid, bring them to a central location, analyze them, clean them up, and enrich them, and then send them to your security devices. Helps a lot of organizations to show a very quick ROI by protecting themselves against malware and other related threats and activities. And also stay on top of everything with understanding what are the trending malware campaigns and TTPs, as well as the trending malware, as well as the trending threat actors for your industry, will definitely help your organization to get a much better strategic intelligence and understanding about what's going on out there. And wrapping that all up with remediation and automation, just to make sure you don't have just a great threat intelligence repository in the cloud, but being able to take advantage on it and take all the indicators and the key information which is relevant to be integrated to your internal controllers and security devices is something that we do by being able to integrate with web proxies, mail gateways, firewalls, SIM providers, and others, as well as offering takedown services to be able to take down specific social media pages, mobile applications, phishing websites and domains, as well as paste from paste sites, kind of get you the complete picture of understanding what is going on, but also help you to mitigate the risk and operationalize the solution and taking advantage of the data using your existing investment that you have done already with your security devices. So, and now we will go to the live demo. So here, I actually have an instance of our dashboard in the cloud. This is the IntSights platform, as you can see. And like I mentioned before, we break down the platform to 4 main areas: tailored intelligence, the threats and risks that are targeting your organization specifically; IOC management, which is the ability to consume all the threat feeds and analyze them; and also being able to run some ad hoc investigations on specific incidents related to them; automations, which will allow you to take all that great information that we uncover and push it to your security devices; and our research platform that will help you to stay on top of all the threat actors, campaign, and TTPs that are targeting financial organizations specifically and are trending in the world nowadays in general. As you can see, this is the main dashboard of the platform. At the top, you will be able to see threats and risks that are coming from the clear web. At the bottom, you will be able to see threats and risks that are coming from the deep and dark web. We usually split down the threats to 6 main categories. The first one would be attack indication. That would uncover any specific directed attack or attack tutorial on your organization. So if there is a tutorial on YouTube about how to hack your online service, that will end up in here. If there is a specific DDoS attack plan on you, that will show up under here as well as if we were able to find out a specific malware that was written to target your organization. Data leakage, being able to provide you information across credentials that were compromised, bank accounts that were compromised, and credit cards, as well as other information that might left your network that you're unaware of. Phishing will be able to take your domain and information and find dedicated specific domains that are being registered to phish you and your customers, as well as be able to uncover phishing websites. Print security will help us to cover all the mobile space, and if we find any specific malicious mobile app that might target your organization, we will be able to put it in there, as well as social media pages and scams that we might uncover. Under exploitable data, we'll be able to provide you information about how your organization looks from the outside for hackers. So we will use a lot of our open source tools and capabilities just to figure out if there is a suspicious open port, some sort of a certificate that expired, or a login page which is unencrypted, or anything that might be out there that might grab hackers' attention. We will be able to tell you about that and bring it up to your attention. And at the end, being able to look for direct attacks targeting your executives. This is what we will do under the VIP tile. We will be able to bring all this information and tailor it specific to your organization by defining your digital footprint in the platform. So by putting all these keywords that you can see here across all the different buckets that I'm about to show you will definitely help you and help us to better understand your business and define a digital footprint that will focus us on finding the specific threats and risks that are targeting your organization. So we will start all the way from just putting all your company names, company domains, your public IP ranges, executive mails and emails, technologies that we use, PIN numbers, SWIFT numbers, routing numbers, and all the information that might be related to your specific institute that will help us to focus our findings on the specific threats and risks that are targeting yourself. That's an example of an alert. Every alert will have an evidence associated with it, a criticality, link to the specific source of when we got the data from, and we'll also have those great tools that we have here on the side We have Ask the Analyst tool, which is meant to be an extension of your team. When every time you might have a question about a specific threat and risk which is being presented in the platform, you can approach our team, and we will help you to find a way to mitigate the risk and help you to also get in touch with threat actors and analyze specific attacks. And also our one-click remediation capabilities that can be taken specifically from the platform to be able to take down, show with Google Safe Browsing, or block with a specific security device that you have within your internal network. On top of that, we have our IOC management capabilities while we able to go ahead and collect information from multiple different sources, specifically FSISec, Cyber Threat Alliance, a bunch of open source feeds, documents, emails, etc. Bring it all into one repository, clean it up, make sure that there are no well-known domains there, being able to retire all indicators that are not relevant anymore, and also enrich the data from multiple different sources to make sure that you just don't get specific indicators that have no context associated with them. Once you observe an indicator, we will be able to provide you the relevant context to understand if it is related to any malware campaign or a specific activity that will definitely help you to go ahead and shorten the time that you need to understand what the risk is and start acting to mitigate it, rather than spend a lot of time by trying to understand exactly what you're dealing with. Then being able to take all this information and using our policy engine, being able to integrate that with your security devices will make a lot of sense. So grab and take all this information, and based on your policy, we will be able to take the relevant threat and risk and push it into the relevant security device within your internal network. And finally, being able to stay up to date with threat actors, TTPs, and campaigns, and also being able to narrow it down for a specific sector within a specific country will definitely help with staying on top of all financial threats related activities and trends that we see going on in the market. Finally, we also have our dark web repository available for search if you're in the middle of an incident response activity and you want to go ahead and search our dark web repository. You will be able to use our query language just to go ahead and find specific information related to a specific passport number, credit cards, threat actor, IP, and we will be able to provide you information which is related to the specific search term based on the matches that we have in our database. And this is a quick overview for the IntSights platform. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Well, very good, Tom. We appreciate your time and insight today. As you said, we've got the opportunity to take some questions from the audience now. I want to remind people, if you haven't submitted questions yet, you still have the opportunity to do so via the chat window on your screen. I'm sure we can't get to every question today, but for those that we don't answer in the course of this session, we will respond to you via email. That said, we have some questions here. Tom, here's the first one. Regarding the research you shared, who conducted the financial services threat research at IntSight, and are those research services available to customers as well?
Yes, absolutely. So we have our dedicated internal research team, which focuses on financial organizations. And all they do all day long is just to go across all our sources and engage some activities that helps them to get the understanding about what's going on out there, what are the trends, and also share it with our clients. On a certain cadence, we will put the financial landscape report out there, and this report will be available for any financial organization who would like to consume them through our website. and the link that I shared earlier during my presentation.
Tom, if more hacker activity is moving to private peer-to-peer channels, is there any way for companies to monitor that activity? And if so, how?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Tom. So first, you need to understand how this new system works and being able to stay ahead of the curve and gain access to all of these channels and private communities. Internally, we have our analyst team that is working very hard to make sure that we stay on top of all of these sources and get access to them. And on top of that, our development team developing a new set of capabilities to be able to collect and automate some of the collection from that specific sources. So we will be able to do it on a much greater scale in a very close to real-time SLA for our clients.
Tom, another question for you. There's a lot of different threat intelligence, IOC feeds, and general threat information to process. Do you have any tips for how to manage those various information sources effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. A TIP platform will be the right answer for that. So being able to use the TIP portion of the IntSights platform will definitely help you to consolidate all those feeds and information into a single place, retire data which is not active anymore, and also being able to enrich it and send it to your security devices, which we believe is the best way to deal with the overwhelming amount of data related to threat intelligence that exists out there today.
And Tom, just one more question following up on everything you shared with us. What other research or resources does IntSights provide?
Yeah, so we have the threat reports that we publish on a regular cadence, as well as we have our blog posts that we put out there. And we always try to keep our customers informed by emails and following our blog posts related to any specific activity that might be related to the financial sector and in general that would be interesting for them to know about from the sources that we cover. And also, yeah, we also put some information out there like webinars like this one, just to be able to share the word and get like a better overview of the threat and the risk that exist out there with an analysis attached to them as well.
Very good, Tom. Again, I want to thank you for your time and insight today, and especially for taking time to answer these questions. We're very grateful.
Thank you very much.
I also want to thank our attendees. We're grateful that you took time out of your day to attend this session. I trust that today's discussion provided valuable new insights to enable you and your organization to be even better prepared to tackle the critical issues we discussed here today. I look forward to seeing you again at one of our upcoming sessions. Until then, for Information Security Media Group, I'm Tom Field. Thank you very much.